This team is special. They're a very tight group. They all get along really well. They do things together, and you can tell they want to build this and they want to win. It's really great to see. I mean, I think Jeff Gorton was telling me one of the practices we had in August, there were 42 players on the ice. I've never seen that. In 17 years that I've been doing this, you see a spatter of players that stick around, but these guys stick around not only because they want to see the great city of Montreal and everything that it has to offer, but because they want to be together and they want to win together.
Interesting take. That's Jeff Molson, Canadiens owner at the recent Canadiens golf tournament, the Habs tournament, talking about something I've never heard, by the way, the idea that so many players were on the ice for a practice session. See what that means. Mitch Gallo, radio host at TSN 690, to talk about people looking forward, not just looking forward to another rebuild year, but to a year when maybe, just maybe, I don't know, maybe we end up in the Stanley Cup Finals. Mitch, thanks for taking the time. Let me begin by asking, what's Jeff Molson talking about these 42 players on the ice? Is that just it, that he's never seen that level of commitment before?
Yeah, well, hey, Aaron, I think it's mainly the fact that so many players were committed to Montreal during the summer. These players often head back home and do their off-season training wherever they're from, whether it's Cole Caulfield, who's an American, or Patrick Laine, who usually goes back to Finland. All these guys were in Montreal all summer, and I think what's most encouraging is how young the Montreal Canadiens players are, and the fact that they're all spending their summers in Montreal, getting used to the city, getting used to all the attention, and really spending a lot of time on the ice getting ready for the upcoming season. So, I haven't seen as much as Jeff Molson has seen, obviously, but considering that he is impressed by this, I think we should all be impressed as well.
Well, let me ask the question, because you just said, the number of young players. Now, typically when you talk about young players, you're talking about a group that needs to eventually come together. You need some experience. This we're talking about, as I said, everyone seems to be looking at this team based, on a couple of trades for people like Noah Dobson or Zach Bolduc to say, hey, this team, despite the fact there's so many young players, has a real chance to get deep into the playoffs?
Well, last year they were the youngest team in the National Hockey League to make the playoffs. And this year I believe they're either going to be, depending on what the opening night roster looks like, the youngest or second youngest team in the league once again. So that's always very challenging. I mean, you bring in a Noah Dobson, who is in his mid-20s, and he's going to be one of the more veteran players on the Canadiens. And Bolduc should be a nice addition too, but is also, just scratching the surface coming into his second NHL season after playing last year in St. Louis. But if you look at the Canadiens compared to last year, they were able to make the playoffs. And although it was a short series with Washington, it was a close series nonetheless with those games going down to the wire. The Canadiens make the playoffs. They play Washington pretty tough, and they've gotten better on paper with those acquisitions that you're talking about. Now you're talking also about Ivan Demidov, who's going to be there for hopefully all 82 games. And you still expect progression from guys like Juraj Slafkovsky, Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, and some of the other younger players. So I just think you're looking at the trend. You mentioned Stanley Cup Final. That might be a bit of a stretch at this point, but there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic with where this team is headed.
So when I say deep into the playoffs, that's not perhaps as much of a stretch, right? I mean, beyond the first round.
Yeah, it's just that they play in such a tough division,
right?
And it really depends on matchups. I mean, in that Atlantic division, you have Toronto, who won it last year, who are always a tough out for the Canadiens. The Florida Panthers are in their division. They've gone to the Stanley Cup Final 3 years in a row. Tampa Bay in that division, they were able to win Stanley Cups not too long ago. And even Ottawa is maybe Montreal's biggest rival right now. They're going to be a tough out as well. So the Canadiens probably are going to have to add to this group at some point, whether it's at the trade deadline or during the season, to bolster their chances of going on a deep run. It really depends on who they match up with, but what you want to see more so than anything else is progression one year to the next. And, at least winning one round would be, I think, a nice progression for the Canadiens at this point.
So you talk about maybe a couple of more acquisitions, maybe still left to come. Where do we need help here? Is it about size? Do we need help on defense because we just signed another defenseman? Where do you see it?
The biggest area for need, no question about it, second line center. Right now, you have Kirby Dach slotted there, according to Martin St. Louis, who spoke today as the training camp officially opened. Kirby Dach is a nice player in theory. He's big. He's pretty rangy. He's a good playmaker. Problem is he's going into his fourth season with the Canadiens, and he hasn't played more than 60 games in any of those seasons. He's been hurt in each and every one of the 3 years he's spent here. So Kirby Dach, the biggest question mark with him is can he stay healthy? And even last year, it looked like he was having trouble getting back to full form from the knee injury that he suffered that took him out for the entire season 2 years ago. So still the biggest question mark is down the middle of the ice at center ice position for the Canadians. Can Kirby Dach be the second line center? And even Alex Newhook, people talk about him. Is he a winger? Is he a center? Right now, he's slotted in as the third line center for the Canadians. I really think between now and the deadline, if the Canadians look to add somebody, it's going to be at that position.
So it's hard to follow everybody because it's still early. The season doesn't begin for another couple of, the actual regular season doesn't begin. Who's the team to beat right now? Is it Florida by virtue of having won the Stanley Cup, or what do you see?
I think it's kind of wide open. The betting favorite would be the Florida Panthers, but listen, that team has gone to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. They're going to be missing Matthew Tkachuk until December. And there's also the Olympics this year, which is going to take a bite out of a lot of their players too, since they should have maybe 5 or 6 reps at the Olympics. So while Florida is the best team on paper, I think a lot of question marks just because of how much hockey those players have played over the course of the last 3 seasons. I really like a bunch of the teams in the Western Conference, actually. Dallas had a nice push last year. Winnipeg was able to win the Western Conference in the regular season and went to the second round last year. I think they're very good. Colorado is another team that I would circle. I think, it's been Florida the last few years. I think the Stanley Cup winner comes from the Western Conference this year.
Last question, I'll let you go. So can we write the Leafs off now?
Yeah, well, again, they lose Mitch Marner in the offseason. That's like how many teams can deal with the loss of a 100-point player, not replace that player, and expect to get better. I think, Austin Matthews, maybe he's going to have a healthy season, which he did not have a year ago. But until playoffs, don't even worry about Toronto. The regular season is meaningless for that team. The question marks all come in the spring when they never seem to win. And until they prove us otherwise, I'm with you. We could count them out of it.
Perfect. Always like to hate on them early in the year. All right. Mitch Gallo, TSN 690. Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate it.